action.
Okay guys, we're standing in front of the Arc de Triomphe de Carousel. This is on the axis historique of Paris. You have the Louvre, you have the Arc de Triomphe de Carousel, then you have the Place de la Concorde. The Place de la Concorde, it used to be called the Place de la Révolution. It was actually the place where they guillotined everybody. So there's a lot of blood was shed there. They later named it the Place de la Concorde, and they actually, it's where the obelisk is right now. The obelisk actually comes from Egypt. It's 3,100 years old. It was given to the French by the Ottomans, and now the Egyptians want it. So it's kind of a contentious issue. The French don't want to give it back. The Egyptians want it. Back behind that, you have the Arc de Triomphe, the big boy. That was actually built by Napoleon as well. This one, the Arc de Triomphe, won't be finished in Napoleon's lifetime. Just started. It was a very ambitious project. It took them 30 years to finish it, in fact. And then behind the Arc de Triomphe, you have the Grand Arc de Défense. It's way more modern. It's pretty new, not ancient not old and ancient like these. So let's talk a little bit about the Arc de Triomphe de Carousel. You see there is 8 marble pillars, and on top of those are statues of soldiers from the Napoleonic Wars. You see the depiction, the depictions of on the Arc. Those are depictions of Napoleon's military and diplomatic victories. And on top, you can see that there's 4 horses and a chariot. Originally, those were not; those were horses of gold, and they were actually stolen from St. Mark's Cathedral in Venice by Napoleon, and they're put up there without anybody in the chariot seats. In fact, Napoleon didn't want anybody in the seats because he didn't want himself there, because it's actually a monument to the men who served in his army. But now there's the figure in the seat is actually represents the Bourbon Restoration, and the Bourbons taking back power because they actually gave the 4 gold horses back to Venice and replaced them with the reproductions. So yeah, that's the Arc de Triomphe de Carousel. Just want to talk a little bit about Napoleon before we end our day. Napoleon is quite possibly my favorite person in history. He just kind of defies all the rules. He is really a product of the revolution. He is a self-made man. He pretty much came from nothing. I mean, his parents are nobles, but they're nobles of Corsica. He's actually Corse, so he didn't even speak real French. He kind of spoke a broken French even, and his parents really wanted him to be something because they couldn't be, and they sent him to a military school here in France. That's how he got his start. That's how he got his background. So Napoleon will actually climb the ranks. He's definitely one of those people who really mastered his own fate. Everything aligned just right for him, and at every moment he always took the right decision, of course, until his luck ran out. Basically, the government was really messy by the time he got higher up in the military, because he was a great military leader. Also, he was a great soldier as well. He was good at everything. And yeah, he'll actually climb his way up. Meanwhile, in Paris, everything's a mess. The Reign of Terror just ended. Robespierre got beheaded on the guillotine. The Directory takes over. It's kind of a provisional government, but it's very weak. And as he's rising, they make him the general of the campaign in Italy. He's a success. Then he leads his troops to Egypt, and that's when they take all the thing. They find the Rosetta Stone. Napoleon wasn't just a military leader, he was also very, very smart. He knew what kind of cultural impact Egypt has on the world, and he wanted to bring all that stuff back to France to make him glorious, but also make France more glorious. He brings all this stuff back. When he gets back, he kind of leads this coup where he takes over the Directory. He becomes the first consul of France. Then he kind of quickly becomes more and more autocratic. At the first, the thing was, people actually liked Napoleon. They thought he was a great leader because after years and years of just turmoil and revolution and rebellion and crazy governments killing everybody, they needed something solid. They wanted just to eat. And what Napoleon, is kind of the way he led things is it was bread and circuses. So he gave them the bread and then put on a big circus for them to watch. And it really worked for a long time. He was also, by 1804, he named himself the Emperor of France. This kind of kind of made a lot of people mad around Europe, especially the true monarchs. Here was this self-made Corsican man calling himself an emperor, and that really kind of destroys the idea of all these other guys around him, these monarchs by birth. So he's kind of, that's the thing about Napoleon, he kind of pisses everybody off. And he does so on the battlefield too. That's what makes him such a good general, is in fact he doesn't play by any of the old rules. Basically these are gentlemen fighting gentlemen, and they go, okay, you guys go, and then we'll do our match, and then blah blah blah. And so Napoleon will just fight, and he'll attack, and at night he'll attack from all sides. He'll flank him. He does everything that he shouldn't be doing, and that's what made him such a good general. So yeah, in 1804 he becomes the emperor, but what really happens to Napoleon is he goes too far. He will lead too many military conquests, and by the end it starts to catch up to him. His fate changes on him. He invades Spain, and he thought it was going to be an easy invasion. And in fact, the Spanish proved pretty resilient, and they kind of kept up guerrilla warfare the whole time, so he could never actually control Spain, which was something he could have never thought would happen. And then he also leads his troops to Russia. They actually march all the way to Moscow. He thought he was going to defeat the Russian troops. What they did was they actually left Moscow pretty much in flames. They destroyed all the food. So when Napoleon gets there, it's just the end of fall. There's nowhere for him to store his troops. There's nowhere for them, no food for them to eat. So he actually has to turn around and march back to Paris in the middle of the Russian winter. 600,000 troops go with him. 100,000 troops return, are either POWs or die on the way back. So on the march back, he says to his right-hand man, he says, there's a very fine line between the sublime and the ridiculous. And this was on the edge, on the side of ridiculous. So eventually the Europeans, they're sick of him. They finally give him his last blow. He tries to commit suicide. He tries to commit suicide, but the poison he takes isn't strong enough, so he actually lives. So he capitulates to the Allies, who have completely weakened him. He's weakened himself. They sentence him to Elba. It's an island in the Mediterranean near Italy. To make him happy, they say he can be the emperor of Elba, and they leave him with a contingent of 1,000 soldiers. I don't know what these guys were thinking, leaving Napoleon with soldiers, but yes, they watched him pretty seriously, but the first opportunity he commandeered a bunch of ships, got his 1,000 guys, went to France. They never thought he could do this, but he actually starts marching towards Paris. Everybody, when they see him, they rejoice. He literally gets everybody to follow him into Paris, and he takes over again as emperor. It's known as the 100 Days. But pretty soon afterwards, he gets challenged by the Allies, the English and the Prussians, and has to fight them in Waterloo. He loses. This was the final blow for him. They sentence him then to an island in the South Atlantic called St. Helena, and then they actually have boats going around the island 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and he's very well watched, and he actually dies there 7 years later, a very, very unhappy man. So that's Napoleon. I just want to walk down and show you one more thing, and then we'll wrap things up.